All right. Hey, good morning. It's it's middle of the week already. These weeks are flying by. It's got a few days till Christmas, and so take advantage of whatever you got to do. And while we don't try to make it about gifts, right? It's always about gifts. And so make sure you get your shopping done and all that, and just enjoy this season. Slow down long enough, right? One of the things that kind of has been marking my life the past few years is that I want to be in the moment, right? I don't want to worry about what happened in the past. I don't want to worry about what's going forward. Concerned about those things. I just want to live right here, and I just think it's important that we do that. We should take full advantage of the life that God's given to us to live, and so just do that, right? Be observant about the people that you're with today. Some of these people have no place to go for Christmas, and some of these people, Christmas isn't something that is enjoyable because of a loss of a loved one in the past, and so all of those things go into play. And so for you and me who are here and alive and living and have friends, let's cherish those moments. Let's just spend some time listening, spend some time encouraging. Let's be about the Father's business this season, right? This is our time, and so we're gonna shine. All right, now, man, I'm ready to jump into some truth. I hope you had a great night. Tammy and I ended up I had to go get my computer, had a little work done on it. I kept it overnight, got it back. Man, it's pristine. It's like working like it ought to, and so I was piddling with that last night, and then we jumped in, watched an Eddie Murphy movie, and man, you can never go wrong with a good Eddie Murphy Christmas movie, and so we had a good time last night just watching that. Up early this morning, doing some studying, and ready to rock and roll. So we're in Luke chapter 14. This is a hard section of Scripture, not hard to understand, although the verses we're looking at take a little bit of time to kind of put your mind around it. But it is hard truth, right? And so I think I titled this one "Salty for Jesus," and you'll see why we did that in a minute. But really, it could be titled "Jesus over everything." That's what it comes down to. Jesus isn't interested in being your one of your relationships. He's not interested in being one of your passions. He wants you to be. He wants to be your passion. He wants to be your only, right? And so this is what we see unfolding here. Now, Jesus is constantly in the last season of this of his ministry here, challenging people upward in their faith to trust him, right? And so he'll use things like, "Hey, unless you're willing to eat my flesh and drink my blood, you can have no part of me. You're going to consume me." Eating and drinking is synonymous with coming and believing. If you read the text in John 6, you see that. He wasn't cannibalistic. He was saying that those who come to him, right, for their nourishment, and those who believe in him for their liquid, for their life, they will find joy. And so he's saying, listen, unless you're willing to do that, you can have no part of me, right? You you don't get parts. It's the whole, not the part, right? And so when we come to him, we get all of him, and he wants all of us. And so this is how that relationship works. And so we see it laid out here. He went on in Luke 9:36, right? "If anyone wishes to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me," right? And so then we come to this section where we looked at yesterday about what it means to be all in. And I'm going to review that. This probably will be a very quick message because it's really just a tail end of what we've already looked at. And so, I'm not bound by the time. And so on the shortness of it, only on the length of it, because I've got to be at work. But verse 25, he says, "Now large crowds were going along with him, and he turned and said to them, 'If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father, mother, wife, children, brothers, sisters, even his own life, he can't be my disciple.'" Now, that's an all-in statement, right? Would you agree with that? There's you in comparison to your allegiance to me, your love for me, it should look like hatred everywhere else. Now, he's not saying that we should hate people. He's saying in the sense of the scales, your love for him should be so, and priority for him should be so high that it tips the scale and it makes it look like nothing else matters. Literally, though, if we come to Christ and He's all ours, all our relationships flourish. So let's just kind of remind ourselves of these things. Following Jesus is self-denial. That's what He's saying here. And so let's look at it again. Verse 27, and then we'll just make some comments. Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple, right? So you're going to set your relationships as a priority over here. He's going to be your priority. You're going to set your own life over here, and He's going to be. All right, so everything you're giving Him everything. Everything goes to Him. For which one of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it? I'm going to build a tower. I'm not just going to go, hey, so I'll wing it, right? And we start building and we start doing things. We didn't count the cost. We didn't see if we had enough money to make it happen. And so we've got this half-built structure. That's what happens if you're not all in with Jesus. You have this half-built structure. And so that really is kind of where the Pharisees are. They're half-built structures. They're working on the law, but they don't realize that the law isn't something that happens externally. It's the transference of the heart to Jesus that then creates the ability to do those outward acts. And so they haven't counted the cost. For which one of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down and calculate the cost? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation, is not able to finish, all who are watching will begin to ridicule him, right? Saying, this person began to build, but was not able to finish. So understand, this is the terminology, finish. That's what he says here. Now listen to what he says. Or what king, when he sets out to meet another king in battle, will not first sit down and consider whether he's strong enough with 10,000 men to face the one coming against him with 20,000. So I've got this enemy. He's coming. I've got to do something. I've got 10,000. He's got 20,000. Can my 10,000 take that 20,000, or should I retreat? What should I do, right? So I'm not going to go out to battle if I think there's a chance of losing. Otherwise, while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and requests terms of peace, right? You don't just go all into a battle unless you know you're going to win it. Otherwise, you start negotiating. So then none of you can be my disciples who does not give up all his possessions. Now, we looked at that yesterday, right? So if following Jesus is self-denial, right? That's what he says, deny yourself, right? So this kicks against all the thoughts that's happening in the modern church today, doesn't it? So if that's true, if it's true that we are following Jesus is denying self, right? Taking myself, putting it over here as though it's no account, like it's just another thing, right? I can discard it because I'm all in for him. Then what does that mean? Well, it means there's no place for self-esteem, which we tend to really want to talk about. Now, don't hear me. I'm not saying that there's not a measure of caring for oneself and all of those things, but really, in truth, what Jesus is saying here in every facet of our life, it's not about my self-esteem. I shouldn't have to worry. Well, I don't want people to think I'm one of those kind of Christians, right? So let me act like I'm one of the guys. No, no. Your walk is not like those. They're on a broad road. You're on a narrow road. It is not about your self-esteem and how the world is going to look at you. Jesus was prepping his disciples that way. Hey, listen, man, they're going to hate you out there. Just know that. And they're probably going to kill you. Know that. Why? Because they hated me. They're going to hate you, right? So nobody gets out of that, right? Unless we're not all in. And so he says we have to see that it's not about self-esteem. It's not about self-love and self-care, right? I mean, you hear people all the time go, I self-care before, caring for others so I can be healthy. Your best way to be healthy is to die to all that self-care stuff. To cease to consider yourself. When Paul says, Jesus too speaks of humility, it is God is opposed to the proud, gives grace to the humble. That humility simply means this. It's not that I think less of myself. I'm not thinking of myself at all. So when I'm moving about this life, I'm not thinking of my needs and how you're going to perceive me and whether you're going to like me and whether all of that stuff. And so I have to love myself because maybe you want. No, I've got to create the universe who's already loved me completely. I know who I am in him. Therefore, I'm free to be unconcerned about what happens in my life. I'm going to be focused on you. This is what he's talking about. It's not self anything. When you come to Christ, drop the word self out of your vocabulary. There's no self-love, self-esteem, self-care, right? Selfishness. It's selflessness, right? That's what's done. So it's this: Jesus over relationships, right? That's him. If he's more important to you and his thoughts, desires, and passions, take a back seat to your wife's passions and your care for her. You're not all in. This is what he says. Jesus over possessions, right? Man, if the stuff that I have matters more to me than Jesus, and I'm afraid, man, if I follow Jesus, I might be poor and I might not be able to keep that car, keep that house. And man, I mean, what the Lord, if I go to the mission field, this is what happens if I decide to sign up to be all in that regard. Jesus over your thoughts. You don't get to choose your thoughts in that sense. What are we doing? We're taking every thought captive. Let our mind dwell on these things, whatever is lovely, what is of good. Listen, some of you have terrible mind thoughts. That's because you've taken your mind. It is Jesus over your thoughts. They're no longer your thoughts. You need to have his thoughts. It's no longer your feelings. You need to have his feelings, right? And that's why when your enemy comes against you, what do? Well, I mean, my feelings are I want to kill them. But he says, no, my feeling is that you should love them harder. Right? You see this? This is what it means. Jesus over relationships, Jesus over possessions, Jesus over thoughts, Jesus over feelings, Jesus over behavior. Right? Well, yeah, but I can do this and I can do that. Well, yeah, all things are lawful, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful, but I'm not going to be mastered by anything. I'm not going to let my behavior, it belongs to Jesus too. And so this is crazy, right? When you start thinking about this, I don't know, you get to the end of a sermon, I don't hear anybody going, hey, can we stop the music for a minute? I have some serious stuff to talk about. You want to come to Jesus, this is what it looks like. But this is what it looks like. So I'm relinquishing ownership of everything. This is what he's saying. I have now become a steward of it, right? So I'm saying, okay, I don't own my marriage, but I'm going to steward well. I don't own my wife, but I'm going to steward her well. I don't own my kids. I'm going to steward them well. I don't own my house, but I'm going to steward it well. I don't own my car, but I'm going to steward it well. My relationships, I don't own them, but I'm going to steward them well. Why? Because I've given them all to him. This is what this means. This is where trust comes in, right? I mean, it is. This is where trust comes in. This is faith in Christ that he is able to be trusted as owner. Listen, we're control freaks, and this is the issue. This is the issue in relationships. Those people who want to control relationships, they don't have relationships. They don't. They have contractual agreements maybe, but they don't have relationships. The minute I start trying to control people, is the minute that relationship's gone. And so this is what he's saying here. Listen, I need you to relinquish control of everything. I want you to give it all to me. And in place, you can trust that I'm going to take care of everything that you've given to me. This is what Jesus is telling us, right? Now, then he says this in verse 34. Therefore, anytime you see that, we know good Bible study methods is we stop to see what it's there for. Like, okay, this is not a separate statement. This is linked to what was going on up there. And what is going on up there, he says you have to be all in. You need to think through the process. You need to decide whether you're going to be all in or not. You need to decide whether you're willing to die to that degree. Or you're going to half build this thing and it's going to look silly. And so if you're all in, therefore, salt is good. But even if salt has become tasteless, with what will it be seasoned? It's useless, either for the soil or the manure pile, so that it is thrown out. The one who has ears to hear, let him hear. Wow. That's kind of a hard turn, right? I'm like, took me a minute. I've been thinking about this for a minute, but what does this mean? So how does all of a sudden we get to salt? We're talking about you're either all in. We're talking about finish well with your battles, right? You got to know you can finish that battle. finish well with building a tower. He's saying finish well with giving him, make sure you're willing to give Jesus everything. That's why when the rich young ruler came to him, said, hey, what good thing must I do? He's going to keep the commandments. Well, I've done that. What else is there? Well, then let's get down to it. I need you to go sell all your possessions, give it to the poor, and then follow me. Trust me. You're still trusting in all your stuff. I'm telling you, give it away. Come follow me. The man was like, I don't think I can do that. Now, granted, it was better that he said that than to go, sure, and then hoard it. Because then he's found to be a hypocrite like the Pharisees. And so this says, therefore, salt is good. Right? Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about salt and kind of chase it down through the scriptures. It's used all through the scriptures. Interesting place where we find it most, are that in a sense that we can grab hold of, is in the covenants, right? Salt is good. It's a preservative, right? Now, it does have a taste. We do it to taste, to salt our food, so it's tasty. And so some people kind of get, and since he mentioned taste there's some aspect of that, that were like, I don't know what this means. Is it we talking about taste? We should be people who are tasty? What does it mean? Well, the word at its core is the aspect of preservative, right? So they preserved meat that way. That's what it meant. And so it's used in that sense of preserving, not as in of tasting. There is a deal that our words should be seasoned with salt, Paul says, or seasoned, as it were, that we may, so that we may preach Christ. All right. So there is the aspect that our words should create an appetite, should create a taste in people's mouth. Right. The gospel's attractive, and so that's what he's saying. But we go to we go to Leviticus. This is about the Mosaic covenant. Listen to what he says. No grain offering. This is Leviticus 2. No grain offering which you bring to the Lord shall be made with leaven, for you shall not offer up in smoke any leaven or any honey as an offering by fire to the Lord. As an offering of first fruits, you shall bring them to the Lord, but they shall not ascend as a soothing aroma on the altar. Every grain offering of yours, moreover, you shall season with salt, so that the salt of the covenant of your God will not be lacking from your grain offering. With all your offerings you shall offer salt. Now, in that sense, if we study ancient history, it was meant as in preserving loyalty. Like, you're going to add salt to that grain. Like, I'm all in this covenant, in this offering, this Mosaic offering that we're doing here. I'm going to be faithful to it. Right? And so there's this preserving loyalty aspect of it. And so we see that there. If we go to Ezekiel chapter 43, I don't know if I kept that one in my notes or not. In Ezekiel chapter 43, he speaks of the new covenant and the altar of the sacrifice, and salt is thrown on the offering. This is the fact that we're saying, yes, this new covenant, right, that's coming, where God will put his spirit in me, will write his law on my heart. He will take this heart of stone and give me a heart of flesh. We're sealing this covenant with salt. What does that mean? We're preserving. It is a lifetime commitment. This is what God is committing to you. He's inviting you to commit the same thing to him. And so that's why it says, listen, if it's become tasteless, it's useless, either for the soil or for the manure pile. So it's thrown. There's no value. Salt, if it doesn't preserve, if it's lost that ability, and you can tell that by taste, then it's of no value. What's he saying? And the one who has ears to hear, let him hear. Well, what are we hearing? Well, we're hearing that if you don't make an all-in covenant with God, you're not going to keep it. And you're going to become tasteless and useless to the kingdom, like the Pharisees, right? And so this is what he's saying. Listen, you and me, if he's not Lord of all, he's not Lord at all. This is not a part-time thing. This isn't, I'm coming to Jesus so that, my life will be a little better. No, it probably will get worse in some sense. Anyway, that's the message. Hey, are you all in? All in. Salty for Jesus. Man, Lord bless you guys. Can't wait to share more with you in the morning.